for me, I didn't just get to discover the records that I'm talking about, and JJ Cale's Naturally, it was just sort of fed to me like food.
This is my honest pick of the first record that blew my mind, or the memory that I have of listening to it. And of course I have many favorite records that span over my lifetime. I remember kind of perking my ears and thinking, oh, that's different. I've never heard that before. And the record is Welcome to the Beautiful South by The Beautiful South. And I think I was 9 years old when I heard it, and up to that point my parents had played tons of classical and jazz and some like classic Canadian folk music. My sister took a trip to the UK, and she came home with this mixtape that she had made of the songs that were on the radio there. And we listened to it on the way up to the cottage, and I remember sitting in the back seat and listening to the songs and, you know, just enjoying them. And then this one song came on, and it was called Song for Whoever. And it was the first Beautiful South single that they put out in the UK. And the song is basically, it's a love song to the women that he had written love songs about and made millions over. So it was kind of this like cheeky, tongue-in-cheek. It was, you know, taking a love song and kind of flipping it on its head. And that was the first time I'd ever heard anything that wasn't really cliched in the pop world, you know, something that wasn't just your standard kind of love song or feel-good song. It was funny, and it was kind of dark, and that was the first time I thought, okay, I want to listen to everything else that they've done. So we bought the whole cassette tape, the Beautiful South, and at the cottage for 3 weeks we listened to it every single minute. And so I think that was the first record that really kind of got into my bones.
I was choosing records to listen to based on album covers at the time. I was 3 or 4, and this Naturally came out in 1972. I was born in '73, so there wasn't a time in my life when I didn't hear this record. Most people would know that record because he wrote After Midnight, which Clapton then made a great big hit, which is not the most interesting thing about him as an artist, nor that song. JJ Cale, there were elements of Dylan in his work, and there were elements of, you know, Muddy Waters and some of the older blues guys, and there you could hear elements of Hank Williams and some of the older country guys. But he was saying things that hadn't really been said before, just in the fact that he was probably more stoned than those guys when he was making records. Like, he was a notorious pothead who sort of lived out in the desert in Oklahoma, and he was making a lot of these recordings by himself. And he did certain things that nobody had done before. Like, for example, he was doubling his vocals. And I think he doubled his vocals because he was singing so quiet that they listened back and went, well, we can't. The lyrics not coming out. We're not hearing your voice at all. So he's doubled it, kind of what John Lennon would have done in the 60s. But again, in the country and blues worlds, that was unheard of. The other thing he did that was really interesting on that record is he recorded drum machines. Because they were thinking demos, he just took like a Thomas organ, you know, and he put it on a record. And then he played a little bass to it. Actually had Carl Radle play bass to it. And then he played guitar and he sang really gently and he doubled his vocal. So the world of country and blues had never really seen this kind of depth. And that alone makes that record interesting to me. I mean, more importantly, of course, are the songs. And there's a song on that record called Magnolia that's really just a C major 7 and an F major 7. And I mean, I've got goosebumps under my jean jacket right now just thinking about how beautiful the sound of that record and that song.
As a 9-year-old, I was definitely making up songs and making up melodies, and music was a part of my life, not in a serious way, but in a fun way. But when I started writing songs, I think I always took the approach of really trying to be a storyteller and attempting to be more creative with the subject matter. And I think that I took that from The Beautiful South.
The cover of the album is a raccoon wearing a red waistcoat, and I'd flipped through my mom's record collection, and I always pulled out the ones that appealed to me the most as a 3-year-old. So raccoon is a pretty good place to start. And of course it didn't sound like, I was expecting something kind of childlike and fun. It was a raccoon in a red sports coat, that's fun. But the record was a little bit like stoner desert music, you know, really super laid back. And so I split off from a lot of my parents' records when I was a teenager, and I was listening to The Who and Zeppelin and, you know, rock and roll and new wave in the 80s and stuff. And then I kind of came back to all these records afterwards. And I think that one, JJ Cale's Naturally, probably stood out as the one with the most emotional depth for me, as recalling my childhood anyway.
Well, I remember to remember that without you on a shadow, I'm a drifter in a bar, flying whatever else it had to be. Yeah, it's true, I've come down now. I can even touch my toes.